Silence did not last. It never did in the Koralais sector. 3 days after the destruction of the Necron capital vessel, the void around Karnassus appeared calm. Debris fields drifted in slow, solemn spirals. Salvage cutters prowled the wreckage, escorted by gunships with weapons hot and auger arrays strained to their limits. The stone dogs did not celebrate, they fortified. Within Galsai's fury, the apothecarian was a cathedral of grief and iron discipline. 8 terminators of the first company had returned from the teleport strike. 3 bore wounds that would take decades to fully repair. 2 would never walk again, their lower bodies reduced to scorched ruin before emergency extraction. And 12 were gone. Brother Captain Jaroon stood in the Hall of Names, helm cradled in one arm. Before him, a wall of black stone engraved with 10,000 fallen. A servo skull hovered nearby, awaiting command. "Record," Jaroon said. One by one, he spoke the names of the lost, each syllable etched into stone by a precise beam of light. No embellishment, no eulogy. The stone dogs did not weep. They remembered. Chapter Master. Magus Virek, 12's vox intrusion cut through the low chant of the Reclusiam like a blade. Blacklock turned from the altar of Silentium relics, where Chaplain Soresta intoned prayers for the fallen. What have you found? Subsurface scans of Gorgon have intensified. The previous detonation destabilized a portion of the primary tomb complex. Seismic disturbances spreading across the northern hemisphere. The hololithic projection flared to life between them. Gorgon rotated in cold silence, its surface pitted and scarred from ancient impacts. Yet beneath the crust, green light pulsed in spreading webs. They are not retreating, Blacklock murmured. Negative, Virek confirmed. They are accelerating. The destruction of the command vessel had not ended the awakening. It had triggered it. Estimated time to full planetary activation? Soresta asked, skull-helmed visage turning toward the projection. 43 standard hours. Blacklock's gaze hardened. Then we do not wait for them to rise. The strike force assembled in silence. 3 companies this time. 1st, 9th, and elements of the 10th for reconnaissance and target marking. Thunderhawk gunships crouched on launch platforms like predatory beasts, engines rumbling against restraint clamps. Jaroon approached Blacklock in the embarkation chamber. You will lead this personally, Jaroon observed. Blacklock secured the seals on his gauntlets. I will. The brother captain inclined his head. Then the stone dogs will follow. Gorgon's sky was dead. No atmosphere, no wind, only endless plains of grey regolith and cyclopean structures half buried in dust. Obelisks jutted from the surface at precise intervals, each etched with glyphs that writhed faintly in green luminescence. The first Thunderhawks descended through residual empyric interference. Lightning flickered across their hulls as furnace points shimmered in the far distance, a wound in the heavens. The landing zone lay atop a plateau of black stone overlooking a vast depression. Within that depression stood a city, not built, grown. Metallic spires rose in impossible symmetry, curved and seamless. Bridges of living metal arced between towers. At the center, a pyramidal construct pulsed with growing light, the sepulchral mind. Establish perimeter, Blacklock ordered. Drop ramps slammed down. Stone dogs advanced into alien silence. It began with a tremor, then a sound like grinding tectonic plates. The regolith split open in precise geometric lines. From beneath the surface, ranks of Necron warriors rose in perfect synchrony, eyes igniting as one. Gauss flares lifted. Contact front! Sergeant Malrek shouted. Green fire tore across the plateau. The 9th Company answered with disciplined volleys, bolt rounds detonating Necron torsos into fragments. Yet for every warrior shattered, another emerged from the dust. To the flanks, heavier shapes rose, destroyers hovering on gravitic fields, their cannons charging with escalating wine. 1st Company, advance, Blacklock commanded. Terminators stepped forward into the barrage. Gauss beams struck their armor in flares of viridian fury. Silentium inlays glowed as they dispersed lethal energies. Storm bolters roared in reply, thunder hammers cracking living metal apart. But the ground continued to open. Hundreds became thousands. Then the sky changed. From the central pyramid, a column of light erupted, far brighter than before. It pierced the heavens and struck the warp-torn sky above, connecting Gorgon to Furnace Point in a blazing conduit. Reality shuddered. Virek 12's voice crackled over the command channel. Energy output escalating exponentially. The structure is synchronizing with the warp anomaly. Blacklock felt it, a pressure in his skull, like the approach of a storm too vast to comprehend. They seek amplification, he realized aloud. The storm feeds them. At the heart of the depression, a shape began to rise. Not a warrior, not a lord. Something larger, a construct the size of a cathedral, unfolding from the pyramid's apex. Limbs extending like articulated towers, a central core blazing with compressed starfire. Designation unknown, Virek whispered. Mass readings inconsistent with prior dynastic records. The sepulchral mind had birthed an avatar. The battlefield descended into chaos. Destroyers swept low, carving trenches through the stone dog's lines. Scouts of the 10th Company vanished in flashes of green as Gorse arcs caught the mid-sprint. A Thunderhawk attempting close support was struck by a focused beam from the rising construct. Its fuselage disintegrated, spiraling into the dust. Blacklock strode forward through the carnage. His master-crafted bolt rifle barked, each round punching through Necron ranks with methodical precision. When ammunition ran dry, he drew his relic blade, a long, brutal weapon edged with silentium alloy. He keyed the Vox. All companies. Objective change. Primary target is the central construct. Sever its connection to Furnace Point. Jorun's voice answered, strained but steady. Then we carve a path. The stone dogs advanced, not recklessly, not blindly. They moved as they had for 6,000 years, disciplined, relentless, enduring. Every meter gained cost blood. Every step forward left broken metal and fallen brothers behind. The massive construct turned its blazing core toward them. A beam descended from the heavens. It struck the plateau's edge and vaporized it entirely. Blacklock did not slow. He felt the fear in the mortal auxiliaries attached to the force. He felt the tremor in younger Primaris hearts. He raised his voice across all channels. "Stone dogs!" The battle seemed to pause for half a heartbeat. "Endure!" bolters roared. "Advance!" Terminators charged into Gauss fire. "Break the foe!" They hit the Necron line like a thunderclap. Jorun leapt onto the flank of a towering Lichguard construct, Thunderhammer smashing its spine apart. Malrek rallied his squad through overlapping fields of fire, punching a corridor through the warrior phalanx. Blacklock reached the base of the rising avatar. Up close, it was monstrous, its surface shifting with ancient glyphs, limbs unfolding into weaponized arrays that hummed with annihilating power. He began to climb. Gauss beams slashed past him. Explosions rocked the structure. Twice he nearly fell as the construct shifted beneath his boots. He drove his blade into a seam of glowing metal and hauled himself upward. Above, the warp storm howled. Below, the stone dogs fought and died. Blacklock reached the central core, a sphere of blinding green light protected by rotating plates of necrodermis. He planted his boots, drew a melter charge from his belt, and slammed it into the heart of the sepulchral mind's avatar. "For Carnassus," he growled. He leapt. The explosion tore the construct apart from within. Green light erupted skyward in a column that rivaled Furnace Point itself. The warp conduit snapped like a severed nerve. Shockwaves rippled across the battlefield, hurling Necron constructs to the ground. For a moment, all was still. Then the Necron ranks began to phase. One by one, they dissolved into streaks of emerald light, retreating into deeper strata beneath the planet's crust. The Avatar collapsed in a rain of molten fragments. Silence returned to Gorgon. Hours later, the stone dogs stood among the ruins. Losses were heavy, victory uncertain. The tomb world had not been destroyed, only delayed. Blacklock gazed across the shattered city as Furnace Point dimmed slightly in the heavens. "They will rise again," Jorun said quietly at his side. "Yes," Blacklock replied, "but not today." He turned to his warriors, bloodied, scorched, unbowed. "We hold this world." Behind them, beneath kilometers of stone and metal, something ancient recalculated. And far beyond the Koralais String, in dynastic halls of living metal and cold starlight, new attention turned toward Carnassus. The furnace still burned, and the war had only just begun. The fires on Gorgon burned for 3 days, not flame, but energy discharge, residual arcs of green lightning crawling across shattered spires and broken obelisks. The crater where the sepulchral mind's avatar had fallen glowed faintly, its edges fused into black glass. The stone dogs did not withdraw. They fortified. Bastion turrets were established atop the plateau. Auspex pylons were driven into the regolith. Thunderhawks ferried down heavy armor and ammunition. The dead were gathered with reverence and silence. Chapter, Master Darius Blacklock, stood at the crater's rim. His armor bore new scars, ceramite blackened, silentium inlays scored by Goth's fire. Across his back hung 2 relics, rarely carried together. The first was his chain fist, Indomitus, a brutal instrument of adamantine teeth and roaring power, its casing etched with 6 millennia of kill marks. Its motor housing was reinforced with ancient silentium alloys, allowing it to bite even into living metal. The second hung coiled at his hip, a segmented barbed whip of blackened alloy and glyph-etched links, the lash of redemption, once wielded by an orc warboss who had nearly broken the stone dogs during the Gathor reclamation. It had been taken from the creature's corpse by Blacklock himself when he was but a captain. He had kept it, not as trophy, as reminder. The orc had believed strength was domination. Blacklock had shown him endurance. Now both relics rested against his armor as he studied the cracked surface of Gorgon. "They retreat beneath," Jorun said, joining him. Seismic scans confirm deeper entrenchment. Entire strata are shifting. "They are fortifying their core," Blacklock replied, "rebuilding command hierarchies, re-establishing control nodes." He activated the Vox speed linked directly to Virek 12. Margos, status. "Subterranean energy readings stabilizing at reduced but sustainable levels," came the mechanical reply. "The Necron presence has not diminished. It has consolidated. Blacklock's bionic eye flickered as tactical overlays scrolled through his vision. They adapt. A low tremor passed beneath their boots, not violent, measured, calculated. From the depths of Gorgon, a pulse of green light rose briefly through the shattered pyramid ruins, like a heartbeat. The attack came at dusk, not from below, from above. Augur alarms shrieked across the Stone Dog's encampment as space itself tore open over Gorgon's northern horizon. Not the smooth phase translation of Necron warships, something harsher, jagged. Reality split in vertical slashes, and from those wounds descended angular constructs, smaller than capital ships, but heavily armed, bristling with energy projectors. Interception craft, Virek transmitted, likely independent reclamation carders. They seek to reclaim the plateau, Jorun said grimly. Blacklock nodded. Then we deny it. Thunderhawk gunships lifted from the surface, engines screaming as they climbed to meet the descending enemy. Predator tanks rolled into firing positions. Devastator squads anchored along the ridge. The first Necron constructs opened fire mid-descent. Emerald beams scythed across the Stone Dog's perimeter, vaporizing a heavy weapons team in an instant. The ground itself liquefied under sustained Gauss impact. "Hold the line," Malrek shouted as 9th Company Primaris repositioned under fire. Blacklock advanced to the forward edge of the plateau. A descending Necron gun platform slammed into the surface less than a kilometer away, disgorging ranks of immortals. Heavier constructs, their weapons thrumming with concentrated annihilation. He drew Indomitus. The chain fist's motor roared to life with a grinding snarl that echoed across the battlefield. "Stone dogs," he voxed, voice iron and thunder. "Endure." The immortals fired. Gauss beams struck his armor in blinding flares. Silentium glowed white-hot along his pauldron. Warning runes flashed across his vision. He did not slow. An immortal raised its cannon for a killing shot. Blacklock met it head-on. Indomitus bit into living metal with a shriek, like tortured stars. The chain teeth chewed through the construct's torso, spraying molten necrodermis in violent arcs. Blacklock tore the weapon free and pivoted, carving into the next. Behind him, Terminators crashed into the enemy phalanx, thunderhammers rising and falling like executioners' axes. But the Necrons were not fighting alone. From the hovering constructs above, beams of focused energy struck the ground and began assembling something. Matter coalescing in geometric frames. A gateway. "They are establishing a permanent phase anchor," Virek warned. "If completed, they will reinforce indefinitely." Blacklock looked skyward. The structure was already half-formed, an arch of luminous green lattice suspended above the battlefield. He disengaged from the immortal he had bisected and keyed his command channel. "Jorun, hold the ground." "And you..." Blacklock uncoiled the lash of redemption. The segmented whip hissed as its power field activated, barbs crackling with restrained energy. "I will break their anchor." He ran. Gauss fire chased him across the plateau, carving trenches in his wake. A destroyer skimmed low, cannon charging. Blacklock snapped the lash upward. The barbed tip struck the destroyer's undercarriage, embedding between armor plates. With a violent yank, powered by his augmented strength, he tore the construct sideways. It crashed into the regolith, skidding in a shower of sparks. He did not pause. The gateway above pulsed brighter, its geometry stabilizing. Another immortal stepped into his path. Blacklock's chain fist ripped it apart. A beam from the hovering construct struck him square in the chest, hurling him from his feet. He hit the ground hard, armor screaming in protest as systems flickered. For a heartbeat the battlefield roared around him. He tasted copper. He remembered Gathor, an orc war boss towering over him, whip-cracking, laughing as stone dogs fell. He remembered the moment he had seized that whip from green hands, slick with blood. Not domination, redemption. Blacklock rose. The lash of redemption snapped forward again, this time hooking onto the half-formed gateway itself. The power field along the whip's length flared violently as alien energy surged through it. Warning runes flashed red across his visor. He roared and pulled. The gateway shuddered. The hovering Necron construct above redirected fire toward him, energy beams converging. Blacklock braced his boots against fractured stone and pulled harder. With a grinding shriek, one side of the gateway twisted out of alignment. The lattice destabilized. Green light flickered erratically. Blacklock activated the melter charge mounted beneath Indomita's casing and hurled the chain fist upward into the gateway's core. The explosion tore the structure apart. A shockwave rippled outward, shredding nearby Necron constructs and knocking Astartes from their feet. Fragments of luminous metal rained down like dying stars. The hovering gun platforms faltered, their reinforcement conduits severed. Jorun seized the moment. "Advance!" he thundered. The stone dogs surged forward as one. Terminators crushed the remaining immortals. Devastators focused fire on the descending constructs, punching through their weakened hulls. Thunderhawks strafed low, missiles detonating in controlled fury. Within minutes, the plateau was theirs again. The remaining Necron craft phased out in disciplined withdrawal. Night fell over Gorgon. The warp above dimmed slightly, though Furnace Point still churned in the distance. Blacklock stood amid the wreckage of the shattered gateway. The lash of redemption hung scorched and smoking at his side. Indomitus had been recovered, its casing cracked, but its teeth intact. Joruna approached, helm removed. "You fight like a man who refuses death," he said quietly. Blacklock regarded the smouldering ruins. "I fight like a man who knows it is coming," he replied. He looked toward the horizon, where distant spires pulsed faintly beneath the crust. "They test us, probe our strength, seek weakness." He clenched his gauntlet around the lash's hilt. "They will find none." But deep beneath Gorgon's surface, in vaults untouched by melter or thunderhammer, ancient intelligences observed and recalculated. The stone dogs had broken the anchor. They had shattered the avatar. They had slain a lord of the dynasty. So the response would escalate. Far below, something older than the sepulchral mind began to wake. And in the cold void beyond Karnassus, new shapes gathered in silence.